All right, let's do it. Hey, happy Thursday, everyone. It's been a little while. It's good to be back at home streaming. Tonight we've got a fun little schedule. I'm going to do a portfolio review and then show off a cool new feature that Sketch came out with that I've been using a bit recently and updating some symbols that we use in our design system. For those of you who are joining for the first time, hey, I'm Adam. I'm a product designer at AngelList. This is my little website here. Ralph, good to see you. How are you doing? Hope you're staying cool. And if you're looking for cool designer jobs at cool startup companies, AngelList is an awesome place to find those jobs. I'm just showing off. This is like me logged in to the screen. You can do all kinds of things: salary filters, experience, skills, location, all kinds of good stuff. And companies will post like equity, salary range, if there's equity or not. You can find out a little bit about the founders, about the companies. It's all good. Ooh, and there's a menu that was sticking around. All right, so wanting to dive right into it. Is it Yasmin or Yasmin? I can't remember which pronunciation she goes by. So if I'm butchering this, if I'm saying it the wrong way, I hope she will forgive me. I'm gonna go with just simple Yasmin. And she told me the password, so I should be able to get into this. And oops, I'm gonna clear out this file stuff. What I'm gonna do is kind of a quick overview of the homepage, my first impression feedback for Yasmin, and then I'm going to go through these 3 individual, I believe they're case studies that she asked me to review. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. Let's see if this password works. Ta-da! Whoa. Not now. Actually, that probably would have been helpful for doing the other screens. Anyways, all right. First things that I'm looking for, I want to make sure I get the person's name. Cool, she has her name displayed up there. By the way, I'm not sure if you noticed on mine, I don't know if other people are doing this now, but I put my social media picture as my favicon. So Yasmin might be able to do that too. I mean, this seems like a great space, right? She could actually have a little face in there. Cool. A product designer based in SF. Cool. The other things I'm looking for, like, what kind of designer is this person? Is this a product designer? Is this a UX designer? Is this a graphic designer? Is this a visual motion designer, a 3D graphic designer, right? Want to know like what flavor of designer is Yasmin? And she's saying she's a product designer. Love the emoji usage. When you do have a name like this, that people may be like, oh, is it Yasmin or Yasmin? I can't remember for the life of me. So this is where it'd be awesome to put like a little tooltip. I love doing stuff like this. Like for my name, people are like, is it roof or rough? So I just put in a little thing. Hey, it rhymes with stuff. Okay, now you know it's rough. Small little things like that. Overall, about and contact and recent work is kind of the main thing. Great. Overall, I'm just scrolling down. It's clean, modern. I'm assuming it's responsive. We can go, yep. Sure is. Let's see. Let me get this back to the perfect size. There we go. And then the number of things on here, 4 things, tells me that one of 2 things: that Yasmin is either a fairly junior designer and just doesn't have a ton of experience and body of work to show off right now, or that Yasmin is very laser focused on doing very specific kinds of work, and this is the only thing that she's showing. Now, when I look down here, I see kind of responsive, I see some mobile stuff, I see address, and I see dots. So to me, because those all, I don't see a common thread among these 4 things, my gut is that it's the former, right? Yasmin's starting out, she's getting some experience as a product designer, and she has a handful of projects to talk about. If you've seen me do portfolio reviews in the past, this may sound familiar. I can't stand this pattern. This is a big pet peeve of me, and something that I encourage designers to break out of if they can. Look at investing is break out of these hover state patterns where you're hiding information and you're showing information. This kind of portfolio design pattern, this may work really nicely if you are a photographer, if you're a fine artist and you're like displaying things, and you know, people don't really care about what it's called, what the thing is, where you're doing that, right? Don't really care. They're just looking at it for the visual aesthetic quality and making judgments based solely on that. This can work great. For product design or UX design, I feel like this pattern is something very important to get away from. And why is that? It's because it's lazy and it's not working hard, right? It's making the user work hard. So I have to remember, oh, this is responsive design. I kind of get that from the imagery, but I have to remember this is something about product recommendations, right? Oh, what was that thing? Oh, I don't remember. Coming soon, design your own dress. Performance improvements. I have to remember these circles mean performance improvements, right? It doesn't tell me, the text also doesn't tell me a whole lot to help me pick, like, what's the best thing. Let's say I'm hiring for a specific role. Let's say we were hiring for our next designer on the venture team at AngelList. And I'm looking for someone who has kind of broad experience translating complex experiences, maybe in the enterprise space where they're like very complex, complicated workflows. And I'm just realizing I'm not looking at chat, and now I see chat. Hey, Yasmin. By the way, is it Yasmin or Yasmin? Like, is the I short or long? I'll feel weird not saying it right. Hey, Venegoose. Welcome, welcome. How many pieces do you expect to see from mid-level designers? Is it the former Yasmin? All right, cool. So it sounds like I've been Yasmin. Awesome. Sounds like I've been saying it right. That's great. And to answer your question, I guess just more. Like a mid-level designer, I'm thinking mid-level. It's so funny because it's also such a hard thing to measure. You don't really measure it in terms of years. You measure it in terms of like design projects or design cycles, right? How many design cycles has a designer gone through? If I just have to like throw out a number, I'm gonna anchor in 7 + or - 2, which is the number of chunks of information that people can remember. So I would say like 7 things. I feel like, oh, okay, this person has quite a bit of experience. If I see 7 projects, I'm thinking, okay, this is and you can do 7 + or - 2, so 5 to 9 projects. I'm gonna be thinking, okay, this person may not be like a brand new junior designer. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this homepage other than to encourage Yasmin to think about what action do you want people to take here. So if you want to invite them, oh, I should say something about the titles. I'll do that as soon as I'm done with my call to action. So what do you want them to do here? At the end of the day, if they like something, like how do they get in touch with you, right? Yeah, there's this little tiny link up here. How could you make that more prominent? And also, is there anything else you can do to tell a little bit more about your story on this page? I think the home page can be a great kind of summary page that you can use to kind of give people an example. Here are some kinds of things that I've done. Here are some of my strengths. Here's what I'm looking for, blah, blah, blah. All right. With that said, I want to touch on the titles. I talked about these titles. Descriptive headlines can really be more helpful because they can help focus on the impact. So something else that I tend to see is that junior designer portfolios tend to be more focused on what. Like, there's this project for what brand, here's what I did. And it's a lot of like what, which is can be informative, great. It's a place to start. What I see and expect from more experienced, more mature designers is more of a focus on why and the impact. So for example, there's this product recommendations project, right? Well, I can imagine that product recommendations, the goal here is to increase the number of products that people purchase, right? Or to reduce the time between looking at something and actually making a purchase. So there's definitely some things that we could measure to understand the impact of this project. So focusing on the impact as a headline could actually be a very compelling way to invite someone in to read more about the story, and also to position yourself as, hey, I'm an experienced product designer. I get it. It's like you want me to come in and make an impact. Like, I'm impact and outcome focused. You can tell because I title my case studies focusing on that impact or that outcome that it had. An example. So for example, maybe it was something like product recommend. I'll try to incorporate the what in the why, right? Product recommendations V2 increased average cart total by 200%. I'm totally making this up, but that could be a compelling headline. Almost think of like, what would the news headline, if this was a news story, what would that catchy headline grab your attention, focus on like the big idea to get someone to say like, oh, let me check that out. These product recommendations V2.0 had a big impact on cart size. Maybe there's something I can learn from that, right? So hopefully that's a helpful example. All right, let's dive in. I wonder if I just refresh this page. And I suppose I can click too, but I put these in a specific order that Yasmin had requested, so I'm using my tabs to help me stay on track. All right. Cool. So first things off the bat, I like that the headline is repeated. Again, if it's that impact-driven headline, great. I'd expect to see that here as well too. I feel anchored, like I still have the navigation here. That's great. The image provides some context without being overwhelming. Like overall, my first impression is like, cool. I think this is going to be fairly easy to read, and it looks, nice and clean and easy to browse and scan through. Search and browse pages on Macy's.com. So that's interesting. So Macy's is a big brand. I don't know why. I mean, if you do work on projects for well-known brands, not to just replace the project title with Macy's.com, but you can use brands to elevate things. So even having like a Macy's logo or something here that helps connect, that can be helpful. Search and browse pages on Macy's.com. Like responsive design, to me, that suggests that this project was simply Macy's had a search page and a browse page, and they had a desktop version, and they're like, you know what? It doesn't work on mobile. So we need to, this feels like something like 5 or 6 years ago. We need to update it to make sure that we support mobile design. So we're going to invest in responsive design so that no matter which device someone's on, we have the same code, right? Code in quotes, the HTML markup and the CSS and everything to deliver a great experience across pages. So it seems slightly more straightforward. You know, I'm not expecting like a ton of big surprises from this project. Team, one designer, like who was that? Is that Yasmin? Was she the product manager role? Was she doing one of the engineering? This is a great place where you can flag where you are, like who you worked with. I really like that Yasmin called this out, and she called out the role. Sometimes I see like I worked with Bob and Karen and Susie, and it's like, all right, I don't know who those people are. These roles are helpful. Even the engineers would be helpful potentially to break down. Were these like 4 full stack engineers? Were they 1 front end engineer, 3 back end engineers? Could be helpful. May not be that relevant. Other things I'm looking for, context, like when did this happen? So I get it down here. Having it somewhere in like the metadata, a metadata type display could be helpful, right? So this was mid 2018, so like last year. Okay, how long was the project? Was this 2-week project, 2-month project, a year-long project? That also gives some sense of the scope when you get that timeline. And then, of course, the big thing is why. Remember I talked about something that I expect from more experienced designers is focusing more on the impact, the outcome, the why. I think an easy thing to do as you're going through these case studies is ask yourself why, and then see if you've answered it. So did you answer the question, why did this project exist? Why did Macy's spend the money on all these people, right? This is, let's just, for argument's sake, let's say each of these roles is $100K salary per year. This is $600K for, divided by whatever the time is. So they're spending a bunch of money, they're spending a bunch of time. Why are they doing that? And this is, look at this, over the course of a year. Design list for product listing pages built from ground up, blah, blah, blah. The challenge for users on a site as large as Macy's with thousands of items, information needs to be well curated for customers to be able to inform shopping decisions. This piece of feedback you'll hear from me about everything is like, think about how you can make your text shorter. I like using tools like Hemingway. I'll put a Hemingway app. I have a desktop app, but they have an online version as well. I'll just show you what happens. Just for fun, I'll just paste this in here to just kind of highlight the workflow. So something you notice, this is basically what my writing looks like too. So it's not to say that this is only for people who like don't have a ton of experience writing. I use this all the time. I think that I'm a decent writer, and this is basically what mine looks like. Often we tend to write, it's very easy to write long sentences and long-winded sentences. It's actually very easy to be verbose. It's more challenging and more effort to simplify and consolidate language. So I like Hemingway. It gives a great overview of a few things, right? Grade 14, so readability. How can you get the readability score lower, like 9th grade reading level? One of the first things you can do is try to use plain language as much as you can. Think of like, what's a simpler version? How would you describe it to a 5-year-old? What are those kind of words that you can, right? Like bloated code. What is bloated code? What's the easier way of saying bloated code? Problematic, right? Messy, right? There's all kind of like simple ways. How can you get even simpler? And then the other thing is shortening up your sentences so that they're very oh yeah, did I post the link in chat? Let me post the link. There you go. Oftentimes the easiest thing to do is split long sentences into 2, right? So let's see. And then it's also asking why. For users on For users, it's really for Macy's users. And we could argue for Macy's customers. Exploring the site with thousands. I think maybe this looks more visually. Thousands of items across dozens of categories. Can be difficult, right? Maybe like that's your point, right? What's the point? Like, is it that there's so much stuff that it's really difficult, right? And it's a shorter sentence. Even this one is long, right? It says it's hard to read. So, you know, you think about, okay, for Macy's customers, exploring thousands of items across dozens of categories is difficult. Boom, you're getting shorter. Anyways, that's my workflow for Hemingway. I just recommend it to anyone who's doing case studies. Like, pop your stuff in here, shorten up your sentences, ask if you're actually answering the question that the reader has in their head. So when I go back here, like for me, for users, maybe it's frustrating or difficult. Like there's some specific things, like when it's not responsive, there's specific issues. So I think calling out some of those things, or even talking about them, you know, abstracted out a little bit. 60% of people who show up on Macy's.com to go shopping leave without buying anything. Boom. That suggests that something's not right. Either they didn't see something they liked, they had trouble finding something they liked, they had trouble finding something in the size, they had trouble checking out. Could be all kinds of different things, but really getting focused on that problem. For the business, there were different code bases. Okay, so what, right? The answer is like, why is that a problem? So again, thinking about how you answer that why. Why is that a problem? What are the costs and like business problems that result from the fact that they have two separate code bases for desktop and mobile and all this other stuff? So when I read the challenge, this is where I'm looking for why. Why was this project invested in? I think this part is probably more about decreasing something or increasing something. So I don't know exactly what that is because it's not called out here, but I believe that's what it is. I think they want to, you know, decrease the time it takes for people to find something to buy, or increase the, you know, average number of items that people purchase. Something. It's got to do something with buying behavior, right? It could also be, I mean, this one actually starts out focused on the users. So it could be something like Macy's customers have a okay experience right now. We want to move it up so that when we ask users how their experience is, they say it's awesome or amazing. Those kind of qualitative measures are also measurements, perfectly valid measurements. So I'm looking for more of those, the why and this impact. Like what were the desired outcomes of this project? And then it's diving into process a little bit, qualitative interviews. There were 20 participants. I guess men don't shop at Macy's, which maybe they don't, I don't know. Recruited 20 participants for 2 rounds of user testing, showed them current site versus envisioned prototypes, iterated, blah, blah. Cool. Another thing to think about in the case study, Yasmin, is I'll take a step back and ask you, it's not something you have to answer, but more of food for thought. What work do you want this case study to do? What are the 2 or maybe 3 things, whoops, my hands are not on camera, there we go, the 2 or 3 things that you want a reader, or more importantly, a scanner, right? Someone who's just kind of like doing this. What 2 or 3 things do you want them to remember about you? Like, What work do you want this case study to do for you? Do you want this case study to demonstrate that, hey, you've got excellent user research experience? Is it that you've got, you can do wireframing and UI work? What is it? So I think this is something that I typically see. It kind of fits the mold of like a general case study where you kind of go through the process at a very high level. And I think the stronger case study pattern is potentially, let's see, is my hand showing? How do I get this? T-shaped. Is that a decent T? And by T-shaped, right, it's like, it's not super broad and flat, right? It covers a little bit of ground and then it goes deep into one area. So that might be something to think about in the way that you structure your case study. If these interviews were super important, like if this is, you want to say, hey, I do user interviewing, I do user interviews and I want to check the box and I want you to know like, oh, great, we need someone to do user interviews. Yasmin's going to have that, no problem. If that were the case, this needs more information, right? We want to see, how did you recruit the participants? Why did you pick these folks? Why are they only women, right? Why are there no men included in the testing? What did the usability test look like? What was your script, right? What were the tasks that you gave them? So that an experienced evaluator, like a design manager or a recruiter or hiring manager, will be able to look at these things and kind of evaluate. Okay, Yasmin showed me the usability test script. Okay, yeah, this looks good. This looks well thought out. I don't see any like sloppy mistakes. I don't see leading type questions. I see maybe she used a screener, so she's really narrowed in on a good group of participants. Yasmin saying that's a lot of info for an online piece. I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on again what story you're trying to tell here, right? This story right now is just very like fairly flat. It's broad, but it's not much depth. Like, we recruited, so I don't really know what Yasmin did in part of this. Yasmin showed them a current site versus some envisioned prototypes. Okay, what did that mean? Like, show them. Right? Did she just say like, here, take a look? What do you think? We don't get any color on that. Eye tracking, current page, interesting. I haven't used eye tracking in the past. Me personally tend to kind of like discount or place eye tracking information as like interesting, but not necessarily actionable or helpful. So this would actually be something. Filtering was confusing. Like, why? How do we know filtering is confusing? User had banner blindness with ads. Okay, sponsored items and categories were slow to comprehend. Took 5 seconds to comprehend the first task versus 0.1 second. Wow, that's really fast. I would love to hear, I mean, the nerdy design geek in me would love to hear like how this eye tracking stuff translated into, not only how was it translated, but what were patterns that you look for that said like, oh, this was confusing. Because I feel like people's eyes are just going all over and they don't necessarily mean anything. And I feel like eye tracking, we often associate like where they're looking with some meaning, even though they may be just like looking somewhere and like thinking about what they had for lunch. I don't know. But this is cool. I mean, it seems to, this is fairly clear, right? It's like almost no time spent looking at this big ad, right? To me, this makes a strong connection. Like, oh, I can actually see that. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I don't know how some of these other things work. Eye tracking research validated the customer need for a clean page redesign. Okay, so that's really why the eye tracking was done. Remember when I talked about how answering why as you go through the case study and you're constantly asking like, why do we do this? Why is this important? Why am I telling someone this? All those why questions can really help you. So this is where Yasmin actually told me why. This might even be interesting. This might actually work well ahead of it. Like, okay, where are we getting started? Well, like, why did you do interviews? Right? This sounds like you had prototypes versus current site, which to me seems like further along in the process. So I don't know if all of this is in order in terms of timeline, but I think a good question is like, why did you conduct interviews? Typically, we do interviews and other types of research when there's specific things we want to know, right? So saying like, hey, we didn't know blah, 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 or we wanted to find out blah, blah, blah. Cool, that tells me why you did this. We wanted to validate our assumptions that the current page was just was not clean enough for people to, complete tasks quickly, right? This is an assumption we had. We used the eye tracking to see, like, can we get some data to back up our assumptions? Knowledge sharing, what's this all about? Blah, blah, blah. Learned and shared with other teams, served as design subject matter expert, led presentations and shared learnings with their counterparts. Again, this, cool. As much as you can, like if you have links to things or even screenshots of things that provide evidence, this is another thing I would suggest. Like, this is great, this screenshot here, this screenshot of all these users, these are strong evidence. Like, when I see this, I totally believe Yasmin did this, was involved with these qualitative interviews. Just seeing this image, I was like, sure, got it. I think there's only 16 people here, but whatever. As she says, 20 people? Cool. I believe her. I see enough people here. Eye tracking research, talking about this Macy's page. I see something look like a eye tracking results. Cool. Believe it. Same thing here. Like, knowledge sharing. Cool. You said this. What can you show to provide some evidence? So it's just like, okay, cool. I believe you. Early wireframes. Believe it. Again, why are you showing this? We've got like small, medium, large. Small, medium, large what? This might be a place where you can really, this is about responsive design. So this might be a place where you're talking more about devices, right? Smartphones, tablets, iPads and tablets, desktop, right? So why are you showing this? What do you want people to take away from this? Another opportunity, and something that I often recommend, is when you have an image in a case study to include a figure caption, a little description, so that you have an opportunity to add some color about this. An example, if I had to make up a figure caption from this, I might say like, screenshots from our first 16 participants. And it looks like they're all in the same room. So like where we conducted our research in our in-house lab, blah, 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 right? Or you could say something about the results, or you could say something about some of the types of diversity that you're trying to include. Like, we covered both ethnic and age diversity in our participant group. Same thing here. Like, what's a takeaway that you can add in a figure caption here? Eye tracking results, highlighted prominent banner blindness, and blah, 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 right? There's opportunities to seed those things in really lightweight ways that helps connect the images even more. Those are some low-hanging fruit. Consistency is key. Again, think about the headlines too, right? Or the titles, right? Rather than saying qualitative interviews, how might you make this even more descriptive or more impactful, outcome focused? What did you learn from qualitative interviews, right? Or it could be, 20 qualitative interviews, identified, 5 key problems. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. Eye tracking research. I mean, you could almost put this, right? Eye tracking research validated our assumption for page redesign. I don't know what this one is. Maybe this is something about like going above and beyond, right? Yeah, what are these early wireframes for what? Like what was the goal of these? How are these used? Guiding principle, consistency. Right? Why is consistency consistency was the, I don't know, top principle, or was the number one factor in whether or not people could go through tasks quickly? I don't know. The redesign meant we could present same filtering system for whatever device. Doesn't sound novel, old design, blah, blah, blah. Cool. So like, great. But why is that important? Like, great, you have the same filtering system for users. Like, do you have data that shows that some, like, I'm making all these numbers up, right? But let's say 80% of Macy's.com customers access the website through both a desktop device and their smartphone, right? That would be huge. That would see like, oh, okay, I get it. I mean, people are like, sometimes they're going on their desktop, sometimes they're on their phone. It's the same person. So having the same consistent experience could be really helpful, because then it's very familiar, saves them time. Some of that stuff just taps into our common sense, right? Going wide. Great. So again, like, what does this do? It says it allows you to provide larger images. Like, so what? Maybe you have data shows, bigger images increases sales. Well, dang, then that makes a lot of sense why you would want to have larger images, right? So again, tying some of these things into the impact or the outcome. Before and after is great. There's actually, shoot, I always forget the name of this thing. I'm gonna do this off on my other screen real quick. I think I remember what it's called. I think. We'll find out. Yes, here it is. Juxtapose. So I was gonna hunt for a code pen where it actually uses this thing, but this will just be a lot faster. So let me paste this in, because I think Yasmin could look at this. It's basically a really cool, simple tool, and it actually lets you make one. So you can put in 2 images, right, and add information, and then you can publish it, and you'll have something to put things in. This can be really helpful for comparison, right? Just look at how powerful this is. Being able to slide over the same image, be like, wow, like all this stuff was just fields and, I don't know, runway and parking lot, and boom, it totally changed. All right, there's that tool. So I love the before and after. I think it can potentially be even more impactful with a tool like that, right? Results, cool. Statistically significant positive lists, and add to bag, average order value, all these things, like calling these out in bullets might be big. If you can attach percentages to them, or numbers to them, or dollars to them, that's even more powerful. And we do have some right here. This is the big thing. So this is the big business thing, I should say. So in the beginning, we talked about, Yasmin talked about 2 focuses, right? Focus on user experience, right? Users are not having great experience. And the business, like having a bunch of costs, a lot of just with like infrastructure and other things, not to mention all of the potential missed opportunity in dollars, right? So I would start with those 2 things. Like, I think it's an opportunity to kind of bring it around full circle. You started about this like user focus and business focus. In terms of result and impact, what was the user impact and what was the business impact? This one seems huge. $28 million based on conversion lift, annualized ROI. Does that mean this project ROI? I'm a little confused. I'm like scanning this, and I'm reading this as the results of this project generated $28 million in 2019 for Macy's. Like, this is money that they would not have had if they had stuck with the existing version. of the website and these two disparate experiences. That's how I'm reading it. If that's the case, like that's huge, I would put that on top. Like at the end of the day, like dollars speak even more than percentages. So that one's really big. I would make it super big. Again, if someone's scanning, like I'm going through in quite depth to try to provide some very specific feedback and concepts for Yasmin to think about. But if I'm really looking at this, like I'm going background, challenge, qualitative interviews, picture, eye tracking, picture, knowledge sharing, no picture, wireframes, picture, consistency. I see one thing, I don't know what the picture, I don't see consistency. Going wide, okay, it's wide. I guess laptop maybe isn't the widest thing. That's also interesting. Maybe having a different screen would even enhance more of the wide. Next, before and after. Okay, great. Results. $28 million. What $28 million, right? So I think there's opportunities to make things stand out even more, and think about how you help people as they're scanning too to get some of those takeaways. All right, let's look at the next one. Product recommendation. Okay, this is also Macy's. I would feature Macy's on here. I would have like Macy's, maybe Macy's like little logo, like almost like a little watermark or something to like tie it in and help get that brand strength. Brands do lend some credibility and authority, and I didn't know this was Macy's. I know it's Macy's now, but I didn't know when I'm looking at this. So I'd say that's a big opportunity as well. Like as you're doing things where you're working with recognizable brands or brands that can lend credibility and authority to your experience, use it. Like use it to your advantage. All right, product recommendations, providing personalized content throughout Macy's. Why, right? Why? I want to know why. It looks like the same. Is it the same exact team as the other project? Maybe. Oh no, one fewer engineers. Challenge. So this is interesting. It focuses a little bit more on like user pain points. So addressing user pain points. Product recommendations can make users feel like Macy's is just trying to get rid of items. Interesting. So this is kind of like there's an underlying assumption that product recommendations are like the junk, like the leftover stuff that no one wants. Okay, so different teams. So this might be a place where you call out and have some recognition as well. It may be an opportunity to say like, have a little circle avatar. It also creates visual interest, right? Like put the person's face in a little circle, have their name, blah, blah, blah. Designer, circle, name, product manager, circle, 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 name, engineer. I think it's an opportunity to be a little bit more interesting with this. And also show that you're very, you're like a people person as well. Current design overload with too much information. How do you know? And also like, so what? What impact does that have? If there's too much information, what does that do? That makes it a user pain point. So one of the things I'm looking for in user pain points is the language. So the number one word I'm listening or looking for is can't, right? Typically user pain points are when you can't do something. I can't upload a video, right? It only lets me upload a static image, but I want to upload a video. I can't upload a video. I can't find my bank account number because they hide it. So I'm like clicking all over. I can't find something. Can't. So my tip, when you're talking about user pain points, talk about what people can't do, right? Or how it's like costing them things, right? I can't do this. I'm wasting so much time doing this. User can feel overwhelmed if there are too many products that sidetrack them from why they were shopping Macy's in the first place. Okay, well, I mean, is that a problem? I mean, feeling overwhelmed doesn't sound very pleasant, But what's the problem? Like, what can't they do? They can't remember. Is it they forget? Like, I can't remember, what was I shopping for? I guess I'll just, like, maybe I need to get a snack and do this later. What is it? Business objective: provide product recommendation at right place, right time for the customer. What's the desired outcome though? This is like the what or the how. What's the why? What does the business want to do? Are we trying to increase sales? What is it that we're trying to do? So I'm not getting that from this. So I would encourage Yasmin to spend more time really strengthening up the why, so it makes a compelling story for, like, oh, I get it. I care about this project now because I think it's trying to do something important or ambitious, right? Rather than just like, do the thing the business people told me to do. It's like, hey, I heard product recommendations are really great, so I want you to provide better product recommendations. Will you do that? Okay, cool. Like, all right, yeah, I mean, great. Not half as compelling as, hey, we really wanted keep our inventory low. We want to keep our, like, I don't know what it is. I guess you want to keep inventory low, right? You want to always be like selling out of stuff. We need to sell more stuff to make more money so we can, make more stuff. Process. User research studies. Okay, why user research studies? Understand customer pain points, get their perception of existing design, and existing placement of recommendations. Okay, so there are a few specific objectives and goals. It sounds like this was partner with the research team, so I don't know how involved that was or if this is a major focus. Design sprints. Every 2 weeks, we revisit our idea backlog and prioritize ideas. Oh yeah, I don't think we got this. Like, when did this happen? How long was this? Just that contact stuff. Broke things in MVP for 2-week cycles. Cool. Wireframe iterations. Again, like, at this level of fidelity, like, these all blend the same. Is this literally the same screen? There are like 30 different iterations from top to bottom, left to right. I don't know. Maybe this is one tall screen and there's like 1, 2, 3, I don't know, 14 different iterations. It's hard to see some of those iterations. Iterative work is important to show. I think it can be helpful to go a little bit deeper on those, like pull out a couple things that didn't work. Oh, I had this idea, didn't work, did this. Like, just today I was working on something. I had this really busy screen. I had all these checkboxes, controls, and Chad, one of the other designers on the team, he was like, this feels a little bit busy. Like, are there ways we can consolidate some of these controls? Maybe a drop down. And I'm like, ooh, a drop down. That sounds super elegant. So now I've got this iteration that's like cleaned up with like clutter. It's like really nice. And I'm like, yes, like that's a cool iteration that I could highlight. Using that juxtapose could make things even more like interactive and easy to discover. I do encourage you to pick some specific iterations to talk about, not just talk about that you like did iterations, because honestly, to me it looks like you took 1, 2, these first 3 and just like copy pasted them a bunch of times. All right, yeah, I see a lot of stuff, but 90% of them look like the same as the other thing. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why, and I don't know if it's important for me to understand the story either. Guerrilla testing. You found a buddy and you went to a coffee shop. You got people to provide feedback on testing. Cool. What's the evidence? Like, do you have a photo of this? Do you have something? Would be cool. Pixel perfecting. Okay, like where was an example of that? What's an example? Experimentation. Different KPIs, blah, blah, following are just a few MVPs we launched this year. A panel redesign. Wait a minute, what is this? Product recommendations. I feel like there's not a super strong cohesive story about these product recommendations. Like, how are current product product recommendations bad or not working optimally? What are the specific things you focused on doing? What were some of those iterations? Like that's the story I'm missing about product recommendations. And then it's just, I don't know, it got into all this other stuff. Panel redesign, I don't know what that means. I guess these are two different things. This bottom stuff, I guess this is part of recommendations, inspired by your browsing history, right? And it's like, okay, like, yeah, it's very different. Like, how much of an impact does just having people wearing the clothes have versus just like clothes sitting or hanging around? I think these, I don't know, are these clothes? I'm assuming some of these things are clothes. A comparison chart, okay, providing alternatives on the product page. You've got this like comparison chart. Great. I feel like each one of these little MVPs, this is a case study. This is a case study. This is a case study. Like, these are all great, potentially interesting case studies. Results, oh man. Note on like number 1 in general, centered text. Great for really short things like this. For this amount of text, it could be helpful if visually you're just trying to guide people. Like, it almost makes an arrow pointing down. So if there was like a big button here that you wanted people to click, this could be kind of a clever pattern. Given the width, this actually, I have to move on my large screen. I have to move my head to read it. And so two things I would recommend doing is, one, for most text, like, get rid of the center, especially if you have a strong, I mean, this one's it kind of gets centered. It's kind of left here, then it's centered. It had kind of a, even looking at alignment, like this breaks alignment. If you have a strong left aligned pattern, it can really make scanning and reading easy. If you're consistent with that pattern, this one just kind of starts going all over the place. And then the width, right? This thing is 1400 pixels. I would keep things like much smaller. It's a lot easier and more comfortable to read strings of text that are not so wide. Now I know this seems to be like breaking at weird places. Maybe not. Maybe it's just breaking at where I set it. But also it's like a paragraph and there's stuff buried in here, right? So what does this really need to say? To Yasmin's point about like being thoughtful, hey, this is something online, people are scanning. Increase sales, penetration. What's that? 1.4%. Oops, got like all this other stuff mixed in. Anyways, you get my point. I don't know exactly what that means. What does sales penetration mean? Is 1.4% good? Is it really low? Is that significant? Like, what's the real impact? Sometimes we need context. Like, I don't work at Macy's.com, so I don't even know what sales penetration means. I don't know if that means that there were 1.4% more sales, which could be like millions of dollars. I don't know what it means, and I don't know how to assess, is 1.4% like a big deal or not. I don't have any sense of that. So providing context around that, right? For example, our goal was, right? If you told the goal at the beginning, then there's an anchor, right? Our goal was to increase sales penetration by 0.8%, an audacious goal. If we get that, oh, we're amazing. Holy moly, we did 1.4% when we were shooting for 8.8%. On track to 1 million target. Cool. Like, what was it before, right? Before these projects happened, was it on track to 108 million? Like, did this have an impact? Those are some of the questions. I think it can be easy to like focus on just talking about a number, if you aren't giving the context and you aren't being very clear about the impact, then I start to have questions like, this person says they're a product designer. Have they thought about the real impact of the business? Like, why aren't they providing a clear picture of the business impact? In some cases, like this, the benefit of product recommendations as a whole is this $108 million. That sounds great. It also sounds to me like it could be hiding something. Like, this could be true even if you did nothing. Like, if in 2019 we did nothing on product recommendations, and it could still be on track to a $108 million target. So for someone who's really digging in and looking at that, like a hiring manager or a very savvy recruiter, these could be potential red flags. So I would encourage Yasmin to just be extra careful and thoughtful about how she's communicating these results so that she can make it clear that she understands the impact of the business. She understands the scale of the impact. Does that make sense? Okay. I know I'm going on super long. This one probably follows. I can probably just refresh. All right, let's look at one more super quick. I know I'm going a bit long, and then we'll do some sketch stuff. Designing for performance, improving site speed for customer satisfaction. Well, that one's interesting because I associate improving site speed with almost exclusively to the engineer role rather than the designer role. Where I think about designers having an impact on site speed, there are a number of ways, right? The information architecture or structure, like flattening things out. If things are not nested, 5 screens in, then there's not 5 screens that have to load. Perceptual things like placeholders, animations. There are different things you can do to perceptually make a page feel like it is loading faster or moving faster than if they're just sitting there with a stopwatch. So I'll be curious to see, like, okay, what's this one all about? Site speed is a huge pain point for e-commerce shoppers. Why? Right? Seeing a slow loading screen or nothing at all can have these consequences. Okay, I can buy that. But what's the impact, right? Like, are they just angry and still spend money? It's like, okay. I mean, not great for the user experience or the customer experience, but the business is kind of like, we get the money, happy, angry, frustrated, not frustrated. If they're spending the money, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter too much. Yeah, so I think it would be great to really drive this home in showing, it could be like, I'm trying to think of what kinds of things can help drive this point home. It could be the average attention span. It could be the speed of Macy's.com versus some top competitors. Cho asks, is this Yasmin's work? I think so. I'm convinced. Macy's has huge products, blah, blah, blah. Improves site speed index on search and browse pages before the holidays. Codes bloated with image, which slows down page load. New design could lessen the load. Okay. That's an interesting way. That design can have an impact on page load speed that I hadn't considered initially, is the amount of images or assets, right, that it's loading. Data on nearly 2 million products, 36,000 of those had 6+ colors per product, like color options. Okay. Yeah, only 2% of sessions showed users interacting with color swatch, carousel UI, and search and browse pages. Okay, so there was some competitor analysis. This is an easy way. I like this example here that Yasmin did with the different logos. it tells me, I don't know, this one I think, this little starburst, this is Walmart, right? Is this walmart.com? I would actually put, I don't know, I would put Walmart here rather than this thing, just because I'm not 100% sure that's what it is. And it's not as recognizable as Nike or Target. To me, my 2 cents. Here are some of the examples. So this is great, like looking at how other people are solving the issue of colors, right? Like if you don't have to load, if these were all image files, that would be super tricky. Too close to Neiman. Oh yeah, maybe just a little, yeah. I'll +1 Ralph's comment. Like, it doesn't look organized or aligned, and at first I think that's kind of lends to like the scrappy, like I did a whole bunch of competitor analysis. It could, if you want to do something a little bit more polished, it could be a little bit stronger if these had, you know, very comfortable spacing between each of these things. You have 8 things, so 3, 3, 2 makes sense. Maybe even looking at the non-logo versions. So if you have the all text versions, maybe that helps you to do the spacing even better. Like that. It's a good one, Ralph. Thank you. Thumbnail image. PDP. I don't know what PDP is. Product display panel. Is there an acronym somewhere here? So I guess that's a good note for, oh, it's an image. So this would be great. These are the kind of helpful figure captions for images that I think can be good. Getting this out into the web page text would be even more helpful. And then just defining, if you're ever introducing an acronym that's not super common, like USA, if you're in the US, cool, you can use USA. You don't have to tell people what it is. But when you're in, you know, talking about something really specific, saying what PDP is and then putting it in parentheses after will work marvels to help people understand what's going on. Also something, I mean, this feels like competitor analysis is something you really want to focus on. It's like a big part of this. That's awesome. I think part of what I want to see from competitor analysis is not just like the what, cool, you're like, cool, I see you took screenshots and captured examples, but what's the takeaway? Like, who did things really well? Like, which patterns were you most impressed by? Who were you not impressed by? Which ones do you want to use for inspiration? So I didn't get any of that from this competitor analysis. So I don't know what the impact it was on the project. Basic competitive analysis, said you get user feedback. There's a current experience, there's clicking to do this, and there's clicking, I don't know, +N takes user to this thing. We had a hunch that B would test better. What is A? Okay, let's see if I can tell what it is. Oh, I see. It tells you how many other colors there are. So these are the 5 most popular colors, and there's 5 other colors that are great but not quite as popular that you can see. Otherwise you can like scroll through. Excuse me. That seems like an odd experience. Uh, 4 to 5 user preferred version B. Likelihood to recommend, likelihood to purchase. These, I don't know how this testing was done. I think ease of use and visual appeal, I would rank highly. I think likelihood to recommend and likelihood to purchase, these kinds of questions are extremely difficult to get during testing, especially if you are there, because of researcher bias, right? So these are people who, like, they don't want to make you feel bad. Like, they don't know you, but in general, like, even a stranger comes up, you don't want to make them feel bad. Like, if they say hello and are nice, like, saying hello and being nice back is, you know, in our best interest as social creatures. So I don't know what this weighs in on. Like, oh yeah, oh yeah, I'd totally buy that lipstick. No, I would. Like, if they actually gave you money and they bought it, like, to me, that would be a strong thing. Like, oh yeah, they placed an order. Or they shared this with their friend. Like, oh, I think you'd really like this color. But if they just say, oh yeah, I'm like, 5 out of 5 likely to recommend, 5 out of 5 likely to purchase. To me, it's a little fuzzy. User struggled. No surprise there. Multiple comments. So even having like a quote or something, great. They preferred it. Quote, quote, quote. Don't even need to talk about this other thing. One user interpreted a high number to mean the product is popular since there's so many colors. So that's interesting. Users found +2 vague. Like, what does that mean? Okay, narrowing down. Great. So needed B. They needed some A/B testing. You're doing the control. Oh wait, this looks a little bit different. See all colors. This is different than the plus number, right? So I guess I don't know where the plus number went. Oh, this is a control. Oh wait, I see. These aren't two different things. This is how you get to this. Got it. Now I get it. +29, holy moly. Click on 29, takes you to this. Click on +29, takes you to PDP. So you have to click twice. You have to click this, then you see all the same stuff you saw, and then you have to click again. All right. Interesting. I guess I'm surprised that if someone clicks on this or like hovers over this, why don't they just get to see all the other colors? I don't know. Anyways, that's besides the point. I'm not testing this product. I'm just looking at the case study. User flow. I click on 33. So these arrows and things, these are super small. Like, again, this user flow could be helpful, but like, what's the point? Like, why are you showing this? Hey, RJ, welcome. Results. All right, cool. We get good results. Experiment concluded A/B test success. Change will go live by the end of September. We should check it out. What's this stuff called? Is it up now? Macy's MAC lipstick. Let's have some fun. Ha! Boom! Look, there it is. And check out the experience. Oh, oh wow, things keep like popping up. See, I guess this is what I would have expected this to be the default experience. Assuming this is just a big image sprite and it's already loaded. I guess that's what I was confused about. I mean, the fact that it takes me to a whole other page is one thing. I guess, why don't I just get this here? Oh, you can't. Oh, I see. You can't add this to your cart or anything from here. You have to go to this other page. I didn't know that. All right. Only released days ago. Nice. All right, great timing. It was fun. All right, and then decrease page speed index. So again, I think this is something that will be helpful to define for people so they can understand, what does this mean, right? And another thing Yasmin can do, I think she really has the potential for really strong results in impact section. She has like hard numbers, right? She has these facts. She's measured things, which is actually like, already like 200% better than the average case study, which is fantastic. So I would encourage Yasmin to even consider working backwards from these and including some numbers up at the top. Like, what were the goals, right? What was your goal? What did you think would be a really excellent goal in terms of page speed index decrease. Like, how much did you want to drop it, right? And then what does this mean? I think another thing that would be super cool, it's more work, most cool things are, right, would be to have a side-by-side comparison of here's this page loading speed, here's the before page loading speed, here's the after. I think I can probably find an example. Page speed test. Maybe video. If I search on video, will I see it? No. All right, maybe I won't see it. Page load comparison. Test a website for. All right, I'm not. All right, I can't get to it in one click, so I'm giving up on that. We met our goals of no harm to KPIs. So they didn't. Their effect. This is kind of interesting. Like, this is actually a pretty important goal when you're doing e-commerce stuff. Is, yeah, you want to get in there, you want to experiment, but you also don't want to like break what's working, right? You don't want to be throwing monkey wrenches in with what's working. So actually tracking those things like add to bag rate, conversion rate, PDP rate is really important. You can even simulate it, Yasmin. I mean, you could, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what would I do. I think you could probably like create a GIF where you are doing things with the frame rate. So you can basically just like have something that just to show like what is 20 point. Actually, maybe that's the thing. Maybe there's something that will show demo page load speed difference. If this isn't a thing, someone should build this. What I'm thinking of is a place where you type in a time. So rather than 2 sites, you type in a time. So you type in like 14, let me do this. All right, someone should build this, or someone should help me find this. Because I don't know, maybe this is not super useful, but it sounds like a totally nerdy, cool thing to build. Like, so what? What's the difference between, 20.4 milliseconds and 14.3? And you pick compare, and then it has 2 things that load. One loads at 20, the first one, and one loads at the other one. And it just uses the same like video or whatever, and it just sets it up. I just think that would be so cool. I'm gonna write it down in my book. Idea. Who knows? With all ideas, a good thing to do is sleep on it and see if it still feels awesome the next day. Because maybe I'm just super excited about it now. But this idea I have is a website that accepts time in milliseconds and displays side-by-side comparison. Because I really think that that's what people can relate to, and that's what's impactful. Like, to say that it improved 28%, it's like 20 milliseconds, that sounds like this. 14 milliseconds, to me, that's like this. And I guess my hand wasn't on when I'm snapping, but that's what I was doing. And seeing page load, I think, can be super impactful. Like, oh my god, that's so much better, right? Even more than the numbers. Alrighty. Oh man, we had a lot of fun, Yasmin. I hope you enjoyed. All right, claps for Yasmin. Yeah, thank you so much for submitting. Oh, it didn't do it. Where's my... Hold on. Where's my keyboard? All right. clap. Yeah, I have it set up. All right, let me try it. I think my app just wasn't open. There we go. Boom, that's what I'm trying to do. All right, thank you. And with that said, let's roll into the next part, which is I want to show off this cool new sketch feature that I've been using this past week to update some symbols in Sketch that we use for our design system on the Venture team. And this is Sketch. If you're using a Mac, check this out. If you're not on Mac, wait a little while. I think they're working on a web version. But you can just hang out to see. Maybe you know someone who uses Sketch, you can show them how to do this. The feature that I'm going to be talking about today was just released in Sketch 58. So Sketch 58 came out this week, I believe, earlier this week. And they introduced this new feature called Smart Layouts for symbols, which is great. And so what I'm going to do tonight to demo this, let me know if I need to zoom in anymore. I'm going to show you how you can make cool button symbols and also how you can make a modal. And I was trying to get this set up like frantically before I started streaming. I didn't get, obviously my modal is missing a lot of stuff. It's just kind of the background. So we'll fill that in as we go along. But the first thing we'll do is we'll set up these buttons as symbols. So I've got these 3 different style buttons: a default button, a primary button, and a secondary button. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create a symbol. So I'm going to create button. This is going to be button default. One of the cool things is you can do this right from here. So I'll use this for the first one. So this is going to be a left to right layout. And this is going to be that's it. It's either horizontal or vertical. So I'm picking left to right layout. And then when I go into symbols, I can ungroup this stuff. And I need to make sure that this is set to that. That's excellent. I'm going to always have my buttons grow from the left. So I'm just going to pin it to the top of the left. And I think that's golden. All right, let's try it out. So I'm going to use runner and I'm going to tab. Oh, I haven't upgraded this runner yet. I did the one at work. I'm going to use this other method of inserting. Insert document. So I've got button default. I'll put it here. Now in my overrides, I'll name it, let's see, give claps. And so if you saw it happen, right, it auto resized. So it maintained the same amount of padding on the left and right. And just to demonstrate, I'll just make a duplicate of it with Command D, and then let's give it a really long name. I'm just reading things in my room. I see a little bottle of advanced hand sanitizer. So that's what I'm going to write in here, and boom, automatically works. So there's no need to use, previously you could use the Anima plugin and add some padding and things, but now you don't need to because we already have this layer built in. And there's another way to do it as well, and I'll show that method. So I'll go to create symbol, button default, and this is good if you have pre-existing symbols, right? Pre-existing symbols that were made before Smart Layout came out, they're going to have no layout by default. So when you go to the symbols page and you select that symbol, you'll find that in the layout, this is where you can have effect on things. So I'm going to do the horizontal, the left to the right. I'm going to pin this and fix the height. I can't tell if that's selected or not. And then I'm going to remove this group. I don't really need that group anymore. And then I'll do a couple more things. I'm gonna call this label. And I'm gonna call the rectangle button background. And I'll do the same thing down here. Label, maybe I just call it background because it's obvious that it's a button, hopefully. Cool, and then I'll go back, I'll make one more symbol here. Button secondary, and we'll give it that left to right layout. I'll get rid of the group. I'll change my layer names. And I will pin that. Cool. So all my buttons now I can create as symbols. I can have a save button, for example, right? Boom, I can have save. I can have a secondary button. Let's see, maybe a cancel button. Maybe I'll make some buttons for this modal here. Cancel, or let's see. Transfer funds. There we go. All right, and let's build up this modal a little bit because I'm going to show something cool that we can do with the modal. All right, let's see. For this modal, let's do 24 pixels of padding. So I'm just adjusting my layout here. There we go. Let's have a title for this. Let's get rid of that. Let's do, I don't know, 32. This will be transfer funds. All right, do I have font awesome? Let's see. Woo, my goodness. Close. That doesn't look right. What is... Let's go back to Chrome real quickly. A new font awesome. I can't even get the regular one to work very well. All right, docs. Maybe, no, icons. Times, called times. All right, great. That makes sense. It's like the time sign. I always think of it as close. Great, I was able to get that. Fantastic. 24, great. Let's change the color on that one. Can be even lighter than that. Let's see here. Whoops. Had the wrong thing selected there. There we go. Great. All right, we have transfer funds. Let's put now, well, actually, we're going to make this to a generic modal. Modal heading, cancel, and let's call this primary CTA, call to action. And we're going to, oh, interesting, yeah. And this one I'll want to adjust the, I actually want this one to grow from left to right. So I'll need to make a new symbol. I'm going to detach from symbol, and I'm just going to create a new symbol. That's going to be button. Why did that say button default? Ah, I named my buttons wrong. Hang on. I called this one default. Button primary. And I'm gonna say, actually, this is left to right. L, what's the best way to do left to right? There we go. Copy this. And then I'm gonna duplicate this button and I'm gonna create a right to left version. Right to left, because what I'll want to do is if I have this button anchored in the lower right corner of the modal, I'll actually want it to grow from right to left, not left to right. So I'm gonna pick right to left, and then I'm gonna change my pinning to the right, and I'm also going to right align the text, and then I'm going to name this as primary R to L. Cool. All right, now I can go back. Now I can replace with a right to left button. Oh, that's interesting. Why did it do that? Fun times. Let's think. 172. So primary CTA fits. Okay, that seems like it's just a temporary bug. That situation that I was in. All right, it's working fine now. And then I'll show you a trick that I'm doing at AngelList for our modal symbols. And you let me know if you have an even better way of working. So one thing that I wanted to do, and actually we can make this quite a bit shorter. So let's just pull this up here. And let's pull this up here. How are we doing? Oh, wow, that's really close. It's a pretty good guess. So what we want to do is we wanted to create a symbol that created a modal pattern, right? Something like this with like a split button, and we'll make a couple other modal examples in a second. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to say we didn't want to hard code anything in the modal. We really wanted the modal body to be flexible, so we could put text in there, we could put images in there, we could, you know, put a form in there, form elements in there. We could do a lot of things in there. We didn't want to have, you know, make a modal for all these different situations. We wanted to have these modal containers or wrappers that we could then put in whatever custom content we wanted. So the solution that I came up with, I think is kind of clever. You tell me what you think. So I'm gonna give, I'll give 24 pixels of space just between everything here. And what I did was I removed the fill and I gave it, whoops, not 42. I want 4 and 2, I think. There we go. I gave it a really faint, oh, that's too faint. I don't know if you can see that. Let me make it darker for display purposes. Hopefully you can see that now. What I did was, yeah, I have it inside. No. Go away, Phil. There we go. I created this dashed line, and that's essentially to say, like, great, if you put your contents in here, then you'll have the correct spacing between here. And then we just tell engineering, hey, ignore this dash line. This is just a guide for designers. It doesn't mean actually put a dashed line in the code. So I'll show you how this works then. So I'm going to select all this stuff. I'm going to create a symbol. Boom. I'm going to call this modal, and this will be primary plus cancel. Or maybe I should do, maybe I'll call it cancel plus primary, because the cancel is on the left and the primary is on the right. I could also just shorten it up to cancel plus CTA, but I'll do I think cancel plus primary is good. And then for this one, I'm actually going to want to do a vertical layout where I do top to bottom, and I'll save that. And then I'll go and edit the symbol because I want to do some pinning. So I want to make sure some of these things are staying where they are. I want to make sure that's fixed. I want to fix, it's like I can't click on the, maybe I'm just really bad at clicking, or, I don't know. I'm going to pin that. For this one, I'm going to, let's say this modal, let's say this is the modal size. I don't want it to get any wider. So this is maybe a small modal and it can only grow vertically. So what I'm going to do is fix the width of the container. Inside here, in this, my guidelines, I'm going to pin it to the top. And I'm going to fix the width. And then these buttons, I'm going to pin to the bottom corners. And I could pin the height, I guess, or fix the height. That's fine. All right, I think I have it set up correctly. So let me try it out. So this is an instance of it. And I'm going to drag it and see what happens. Ooh, nice. So, oh, no. So it's not, if you can see, I need to do a little bit more work because I see that at first it looked good, but as it grows longer, you can see it's not maintaining the 24 pixels of space between my guideline and the modal. All right, one trick that I do is I work quite a bit in this symbols page, so I don't go back and forth between the pages. What I do is I just simply add a modal, right? I add an example here so I can see what's happening live. So I'll stretch it out right next to it and I can say, oh, that doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is that. Did you see what happened? So it may be hard to see. Let me make this really visible. I know this is what I do for work, is have a very faint line, but let me make it really quite obvious. So let me make it that bright red just so you can see, right? Here's the issue. I'm not having that spacing maintained like I like. So what I did was I had it pinned to the top. All I need to do is pin it to the bottom. And now I'm getting that really flexible dynamic modal that I want. And those are my guidelines. And then I can go in and fill things out with whatever I want. Cool? Yes? No? Maybe? All right, I'm going to turn off that border for now. So that's the smart symbols in a nutshell. I'm trying to think of if there's any other immediate use case I want to share with these. The buttons, the modals. I mean, you can do it with pretty much everything. Form fields, anything that you're changing the text, like you have a label or something going on, or you have some sort of container where you're changing the elements, you can have these smart layouts that are now going to adjust to whatever you need. The tricky thing is, yeah, it breaks like this. All right, let's see if I can, fix this and make a horizontally flexible one as well. Yikes. I think let's see, what will this do? Kind of. I mean, I fixed the width of the center item. So it really depends. Like if you want a modal that's gonna have maybe a minimum width, and then you can resize horizontally and vertically. I think for this one, all that we would do is we would just do that same thing. Remove the fixed size and fix the fixed, pin it to everything so that it just stretches out. Now, if I wanted to, keep the size fixed, so it didn't get any bigger horizontally, what can I do? I can do, I can fix the size of the rectangle. Great. This thing is pinned. I feel like using the anima pinning still works better. I'm gonna try this. I'm using a plugin now, this anima plugin. I'm gonna see what happens. Now, oh, it's still stretching. How do I go back to before? No pinning. Fix the size. Let's use my strategy that I was just talking about. I like to do. There we go. So that's the situation that I was in initially, right? Fix the size. Now it's fixed, but these headings aren't. I think what it is I have to fix the size as well. So let me just do that. Let me figure out how much space I want in between that. Maybe 32, maybe 24. Great. So this one's going to be fixed size. How come I can't fix the height? Let me break out of the text. Layer, where's it? Convert to outline. There we go. Now I should be able to do it. Boom. That's great. This still isn't fixed. And interesting, what the heck is that doing? Ah. So I didn't pin it. The way that I've been doing it at work, and I don't know if there's any way to stop, like to prevent horizontal expansion. I don't see any way of doing that. At work, what we do is rather than fixing the size, we just pinned everything. So we do like this, and then we actually we say like min size, 480 pixels. We just actually put that right in the title. And this width is no longer any good. Oops. What's this one? 480. 480. Great. So we actually just use that as like, all right, don't make it smaller than 480. And then if you want to go bigger, cool. You want to go 640, go 640. You want to go 800, like go 800.
And then we don't have to create multiple modals, right? We could just have those sizes defined. I mean, we could make modals and set the default, but that gives us something that's pretty flexible that we can do whatever we want. So I think for me, the modal is the most powerful use of the smart layouts because it has multiple levels, right? So we can set the primary CTA as transfer funds, right? Which is a different size. That was interesting how it jumped back. Huh. It's kind of cool. Cancel will stay the same. So for example, in this cancel button, we actually don't want to allow the override. So modal heading, yes. Button primary symbol, no. Text value, yes. Button secondary symbol and text value, no. Now we've just got the two overrides, the heading, and actually we can just call this heading. Right, we don't need to call it modal heading because it is a heading. And we can call this primary CTA, and we call this cancel button. And we can call this the background. There we go. I think that looks good. And this is guidelines for designers. This is the close icon. And actually I can probably just make that into a little symbol as well. Whoop. That was funny. It's like, whoa. It was symbol inception, causes errors. This guy right here can make this into a symbol. Icon close. Great. So now I've got, icon close should not be something you can change. There we go. So now I can change the heading and the, this is just called label. Interesting. How do you get to pass the button? I guess we should call them primary button label. In case we have different buttons, that's probably going to be helpful. This is default button. No, this is also primary button label. And default button label. All right. Cool. I think that's it. We've got all our stuff. We've got primary button label. Oh, it does say primary CTA if you move it out. Transfer funds. Nice. I don't know that why does it keep jumping back to that size? Do I have something set as the fixed? I wonder if I do this. No, that's not going to let it expand. I guess, how do you let it grow and then do an override? Pay your bill. How do you get it to stop shrinking? I don't recall it doing that. Maybe this? Let's see. There was a little thing that I clicked here. What does that icon mean? Shrink instance to fit content. So, all right, this is a setting somewhere. Let's find it real quick. I don't, oh, here it is. Boom. Adjust content on resize. I think, let's see. I think I need to check that off. Let's see what happens. Nope. That didn't work. Shrink instance to fit content. Huh. I don't remember running into this issue. Let's do some quick research before we sign off. Sketch smart layout. Introducing smart layout. Yeah. All right, where's the, yeah, I don't care about all this stuff. Just tell me how to do it. Documentation, there we go. Overrides, create a symbol. How to use multiple Spark properties within a symbol. So that changes. More complex, you may want to include a horizontal layout within a vertical layout, or vice versa, like the example below. First, you can apply smart layout properties to groups within a symbol master to have different sets of layers resize in different directions. That's great. Select the options to resize and group them. Now you can apply to that group under the layout panel in the inspector, like symbols and those, a new group icon. Case where a layer may dictate a symbol's minimum height, like the image in the car. Apply an override to a shorter text layer next to it, cause the symbol to resize with unnecessary pattern. Group the layers and the layer that dictates the symbol's minimum height together. And smart layout will know not to increase the overall symbol height until the text passes its minimum height. Ugh. This is like one of those reading things, doesn't help that much. It's more about doing. Oh, that's it? That's not the most helpful. I don't remember running into this issue. I'm trying to think of what's going on. Allow overrides. Yeah, I definitely want to allow overrides. What's this one say? What's this? What does this mean? What is this doing? Fit. Just content on resize, layout, vertical, cool. It just seems weird that seems odd that hitting enter would cancel your explicit. You could, let's see, could you lock it? Do you lock the layer? No, it still does it. I wonder if this is a new bug. Anyone in chat know? Have been playing around with the smart layout? I guess maybe I haven't been in a situation where I've edited these things after I've moved the content. I just have all this stuff set up and I didn't touch it. But I'm gonna go check on my work computer actually, because I'm pretty sure I did not experience this. Symbol overrides. It's great that there's a shortcut to do it. It just is. It's not good when you hit enter and then you do it, right? If I was clearing this label, pull it big, and then I want to cut that text, and then it jumps back, that'd be super annoying. Let's see what happens. All right, this is gonna look ugly. It's okay, just testing something right now. And here's what I do. I can line it up like that. Boom. Great. And then right, and then if I have all this stuff in an artboard, what would be annoying is if yeah, that totally that's annoying. But this is kind of what I've been doing, basically putting content and then tweak this a little bit and like, cool, now I have my spacing. Huh. Interesting. All right. I think it's time for me to run. Huge thanks for Yasmin with the portfolio review. That was awesome. To get back to doing that was super fun. Hope she found it super helpful. And thanks for sticking around and learning a little bit about smart layouts with me. I'll look into this bug, and if I figure out if there's an easy way to prevent things from snapping back, I'll definitely let you know. So until next week, I'm Adam. I'll be Adam next week too. Hope you have a fantastic rest of the week, an amazing weekend, and happy designing. See you next week.